Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy TDT coming back at you with another weekly analysis. Okay, hope you guys had a great week and hope you're ready to dig into what we got going on in this upcoming week. There's a lot of action going on right now. If you've been watching crypto, you see crypto is kind of falling off the map a little bit. We had a lot of bearish action over this weekend. I am personally accumulating crypto, and I do believe that there will be another bull season on the way. There are a lot of underpinning things happening in that crypto market, okay? But let's stay on track here. This week we have our news releases. As you can see here, this week is a FOMC statement week. So we're expecting some action this week on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Please plan accordingly, okay? In the morning, Monday, 8:30, we got core durable goods orders. We got durable good orders. Those are coming in at 8:30. We should get some early morning volatility coming into the markets tomorrow. Then Tuesday, we got President Trump speaking at 10. Along with CB consumer confidence and the Richmond manufacturing index. A lot of action Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even into Thursday with 8:30 unemployment claims, ending the week off with Friday with our core PPI, okay, at 8:30. A lot of action this week, guys. Please be careful. Please guard your capital and be aware that these things are happening. For those that follow a similar strategy to mine, you know that this week we have a protocol, FOMC protocol. So we may look for trades on Monday, but going into Tuesday, we expect price to get really not as precise, I would say. You may have some really big runs, but it tends to be a little bit more unpredictable. It tends to start making a lot of wicks. It gets like really wicky going into that FOMC statement. So just be aware of those things. If you see price being held in a consolidation, don't try to force your hands, okay? Now let's jump into these charts. So here we go. As promised, I told you guys we would start with a fresh chart this week. If you watch my last video, I know it was starting to get really crazy following it was starting to get really crazy following all that action back and forth. So let's just start with a clean chart and see what we have here and what price has been doing, okay? So right now, we talked about previously how price went into these gaps. I did this at the beginning of the month, and we talked about this being a rejection in price here, creating this fair value gap here. But right now, I want you to see where we're at this moment. Right now, price is working in this gap, and you can see that it smacks that consequent encroachment of this gap perfectly and then sells off. That happened in November. This is a monthly chart, so this is November, December, and January, okay? Let's jump into our weekly. So when we get a closer look here, if you remember from our video a few weeks ago, we entered into this gap on this weekly chart, and I told you guys in the last one that we would expect a sell-off last week, which we did get. Now I was waiting to see how aggressive the sell-off was going to be, and as you can see, we went straight down, breaking the market structure below, closing below that. So in the previous videos, I was telling you that I don't believe we're going back up to the gaps above the market, which would have been these gaps here. I didn't think we were going above this price action here as yet. You know, it looks really aggressive on the daily, but due to this weekly gap that I seen here, I wanted to see price show a little more bullish strength going into that gap, which it didn't do. So price moves into this area and price takes this liquidity, and you can see another gap right in this area We got a breaker right here. That is a breaker. Okay, so this candle right here, if you take a look deeper into this, this is where price is reacting off. You can measure that there with just the bodies. Okay, so price moves into this area, into these gaps, and we get that sell-off that we were looking for. So right now we want to see what price does going into Monday. I'm imagining when price opens, we'll have a yellow candle here going into tomorrow. I want to see how aggressive that day is and how much of this is left open going into Tuesday. So when I get back with our Wednesday video, I'll see where we're at. So right at this moment, we're sitting in this gap below the price. You see it closed right on that gap. So, and it took this liquidity as well from October of 2025. Did it take that? Yes. Took that liquidity as well. So I'm expecting some bullish action early in the week, and then going into FOMC, we'll see if we have another aggressive push down deeper, taking more liquidity, or if it kind of moves back into this area. Keep your eyes on this area as price moves back at the beginning of the week for DXY. Okay, now let's jump into NQ, the NASDAQ, baby. All right, so in the previous video we were talking about this gap here. All right, this is on a daily. Let's start from the weekly. Yeah, sorry about that. Start from a weekly here. Let me remove that gap. Start from the higher time frames, moving down. Okay, top down analysis. So we were moving around in this gap a lot, and this is the gap I keep saying that we need to give a clear direction out of this gap, or else we will probably continue to consolidate, which we did do the World Economic Forum that was happening this week. If you notice in the previous video, I told you we normally get a lot of gaps and then price just kind of consolidates around in that gap. So if you looked at the price this week, it did exactly that. You know, it was even I was like, wow, that's exactly what it did, you know. So after a few years of doing this, you start to get a little more confidence in seeing things like that happening, and knowing when to draw back on your risk, and also knowing when to be satisfied when you do get a good trade and not try to push it into those consolidations. Okay, so right now price has closed above this weekly gap, but we want to see what happens going into tomorrow. I am of the belief that price still may want to push back into this gap here. Like I was telling you guys, another thing that we were right about is I said that this week price would probably take the weekly liquidity below the market. This right here would have been that weekly liquidity that it took. So it took that liquidity without breaking down completely. And that's why I did not have confidence that it's, 100% bearish. It's just consolidating. It's continued to consolidate. And we got a lot of news happening this week that should give us some clear direction exiting out of January and moving into February. So that's what we're waiting to see. So right now price is sitting above this weekly gap, as you can see here, right? So it's still within all these wicks. Because of the consolidation, it's still a hard read. NASDAQ has been a tough read this entire month, and that's kind of the characteristic of January most times after you trade a couple of years. That's why a lot of large liquidity fund managers and stuff, they don't start operating until February. Okay, but we like getting down in the dirt and learning how the mechanics work. So here we are. All right, so on a daily right now, tomorrow I want to see what happens as price opens. I'm hearing about some tariffs, and that tariff news may have the ability to cause this market to go ahead and break down some more and finally get more into a bearish stance. Right now I still believe that there's so much news events happening this week. It's going to be a hard call. I believe that we may go for this liquidity above here, but I want to see how that weekly candle closes when we go into that zone, if we go into that zone, because right now we're sitting in an area where we could open tomorrow and this thing can just fall off the map completely, and I want to be aware of that. So I'm not going to be hard, like I'm not going to be hard on one side, bearish or bullish, until I see how price opens with that weekly gap and also how it opens at 9:30. Okay, I mainly only trade the New York session, although there are a lot of moves in London as well if you're not able to catch New York moves. But New York tends to give you some of the biggest moves on a regular basis, although sometimes London can be the biggest move of the day. Okay, so right now we need to be watching these gaps and seeing how price is maneuvering through those gaps. I'll probably give you some intraday breakdowns and we could talk about the mechanics intraday. Right now we're sticking to our daily, and I do want to try and push on to ES really quick because time is getting away. So let's jump into ES real quick, and you can see here on ES as well, we're just sitting in this gap, and this looks a little more dangerous than NASDAQ right now. It looks like we're gonna open and it's going to be falling, and let's see if it does want to fall. This is where the major liquidity zone is, right here below the market. You see that? That's equal lows sitting right there, and you got a little gap in here. But I want to see how it interacts with this gap on the way down. Like, see, oh, this is a 4-hour chart. It went too low, guys, too low. So yeah, so that's on the 4-hour chart if we go down further. But right now, let's see how we respond, because we're sitting in these inversion gaps. Price has already broken structure to the downside. That's the thing with ES here. I'm gonna show you what I mean. You can see here, price has already broken to the downside. A lot of people are talking about a crash coming, and what we don't want to see is this thing fall off the map. But for now, this is where I'm gonna end this video. I'll let you know what I see as we come into Wednesday. But going into tomorrow, looking at the S&P right now, in the way we're maintaining that SMT divergence and breaking these structures to the low side, I am more likely to think that we will have bearish action this week because of where we're at right now. But NASDAQ may still continue to run higher. So just be aware of that, okay? So I hope this wasn't too long. This wasn't too complicated. I know I was talking about a lot, and there's still a lot I can talk about, but these videos will be, you know, over an hour long. I'm sure nobody wants to listen that long yet. So for now, you guys have a great one. This is TDT. This is our weekly analysis for this week. I hope you guys are protecting your capital. Please protect your mindset. Keep positive. Even if you're taking losses, learn from your losses, okay? Do not become insane. Insane is doing something over and over and expecting a different result. If something isn't working, make the transitions, guys, okay? Make the corrections in the way you think, in the way you're operating, okay? So this will be TDT. I wish you guys the best, and I'll see y'all on Wednesday. Peace.